Um, I am delighted to be joined by Darrell Scott. Darrell, may I introduce you a little bit here, if you don't mind?
Sure, sure.
uh, Darrell was born in London, Kentucky, that is, and raised by a deeply musical family. And he's built a remarkable career as a songwriter, multi instrumentalist, and performer whose work bridges folk, country, and bluegrass traditions. I feel like all of which you just heard in that last song. His songs have been recorded by the Chicks, Brad Paisley, Patty Loveless. He's toured with Robert Plant and a variety of other people. I'd like to welcome Darrell Scott to the show. You've been called a songwriter. I suspect Steve Earle said that about you. Is there any chance that's true?
I doubt it. Uh, Steve is tough with his compliments. Um,
Right?
yeah, so I would doubt that one pretty seriously.
Okay. Then I'm my brother. I'm taking my brother to task because he was the one that said that.
Well, I
Um,
play with Steve. I was in his band, the Bluegrass Dukes they called us, you know.
yes.
And yeah, the songwriter. I've heard that from time to time. Sometimes, yeah, that's what
Is
people
that's
say.
something? I wonder if that's something that songwriters hear. Where you're like, oh no, I'm the songwriter now.
No, I appreciate it because songwriters know what it's about in terms of songs. We all understand that medium, that expression, and yeah, I I, uh, I I appreciate that in case it's possibly true.
There you go. So I'm curious. You get so often connected to, of course, storytelling and to Kentucky, and these are things that really want to kind of delve into in our time. I
Yeah,
am curious if what makes is Kentucky particularly rich with stories, or does Iowa have the same tradition? Does
no,
does
they,
Utah have the same tradition? I don't know.
they probably do. If those from those states or areas would look for them, they're there. They're in their parents and grandparents, or through the church or schools, or yeah, culture. Definitely Kentucky has storyteller uh blood, or well, the stories is what gets passed along, and very much so. I mean, my family's from basically southeastern Kentucky, back in a time where stories were told or songs were sung, or uh before there was so much media possibilities, options, and stuff. Back, I hear stories of my parents when all that they had was maybe they would listen to the Grand Ole Opry on a Saturday night if someone got a car battery and some could somehow rig it up in the living room. Uh, and so yeah, when you don't have television to sit there and watch, or radio, or God forbid, internet, this stuff that we're all into, stories are going to be told when people gather. So yeah, I think Kentucky very much has a strong history in storytelling.
A lot of the songs that you write do feel like they're sort of populated by real places and real people. And does that, for you, a lot of that come from growing up in communities where everybody kind of knew everybody?
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, the other part of that is we moved around a lot, so all my time was not Kentucky. Uh,
Right.
but I maintain this: if you have Kentucky parents, and by Kentucky I mean really the rural. That's my experience. I don't know if Louisville folks or Lexington or something have exactly the same thing. But when your folks are hillbillies, it doesn't matter where you live. You're in a hillbilly house, even if you're in northern Indiana or Southern California, I find. So at least it was in my house. We didn't, outside the door was not Kentucky when we lived in those places, but inside the house, you were in a Kentucky family. And so that's what I maintain is my parents couldn't help but be Kentucky. They had no choice. I guess the next generation, which is me and my brothers, we had a little bit of choice and options, perhaps. But I think the Kentucky things, again, with my background, it has stuck with me through all these years. And so I do write about some of that stuff, some of the characters, uh, you know, uh, some of those themes, stay with me, even though I didn't actually live that long in Kentucky. But but my family was from there, and we visited all the time. Aunts,
Hmm.
uncles, all that, cousins, all that is still in Kentucky.
That's Darrell Scott. Darrell Scott, the songwriter, London native, right?
Well, that's where the hospital was.
Okay.
So basically, back in the day, when you weren't giving birth at home, I was born in, the nearest hospital was London, but we were actually living over in Knox County, Kentucky,
Okay.
near Barple, on the way to Barple, between London and Barple. So that London was just where I was hatched, basically.
Right.
I didn't really grow up there or anything.
Well, so you come from a very musical family,
Yeah,
and I believe even played in kind of a family band at first, right?
very much, very much so. That's exactly what we did. Um, and in a way, two bands. One with our dad, and he was pure country music, Hank Williams, Johnny Cash. And then a band with my brothers, because when we didn't, want to play country music, we would have more of I guess it was actually a gospel style group, but maybe contemporary, musically speaking, not old-fashioned gospel, but more contemporary musics and such. So yeah, it was a family band, and music was sort of second nature, like a family that bowls or plays baseball or goes fishing or whatever. Our family unit doing such a thing. Our family unit played music and sang and harmonies and there's a bass player brother, a guitar player brother, a drummer brother, a piano brother. So yeah, I grew up in all that stuff.
I love that. I'm going to have to paraphrase this, but Will Oldham has a great quote in one of his songs that says something about always lead the day in music, always end the day in song, or something like that. That just
Yeah.
makes my skin tingle, kind of.
Yeah, I
Uh,
like that. I need to practice that. I have a lot of music in my life, but actually it almost sounds like what he's talking about in that line of the song is where it becomes a practice,
uh-huh.
almost like some folks meditate or something like that. But yeah, to start off a day in music and end in song, that'd be a pretty good way to go.
Yeah, I think so too. Darrell Scott is here. Darrell, do you remember? And this may just be someone in your family, but do you remember a first Kentucky musician or songwriter that made you think, you know what, could I do this for a living? I think I could do this for a living.
Well, just because music was in my family, um, and I got to go a little further than that. I
Hmm.
feel my dad raised a band. Like it wasn't an accident that we played music. It was like, you know, you're going to play music, kind of. It was, so I swear, I think my dad built a band out of Sons. And so that would have been the first impulse and the first. Uh, but then, Kentucky is so rich with great, uh, particularly writers. Like Tom T. Hall would have been an early one. Tom T. was from near Moorhead, basically. But great singers and players like Ricky Skaggs, Sam Bush down there in Bowling Green. Uh, Kentucky is full of great music, very much so. Uh, and I'm, you know, somehow growing up with Kentucky parents, my folks made us feel that my folks were proud of Kentucky. So
Hmm.
basically, as being sons of people who were proud of Kentucky, uh, it rubbed off on me, that sort of pride that I'm not even sure where it comes from other than uh, people loving where they're from. And Kentucky has a particular, at least in hillbillies, a pride in where we're from. And I have it even though I didn't live all that long in Kentucky. But again, the Kentucky thing was ever present in my home.
That's Darrell Scott. Happy to have you on the show. I don't know if you heard, but I played before the break. I played your rendition of Lost Highway, the Hank Williams song.
Oh, you did? No, I didn't hear that. Great.
Yeah, and I just loved it. I've recently gone through a very intense period of obsession with Hank Williams,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you recorded a record that you called "The Blues of Hank Williams." Darrell
yeah.
Scott plays the blues of Hank
That's
Williams.
correct. Yeah.
What's it like as a songwriter to cover the music of someone who is so beyond venerable? You know, Hank Williams. Some people would say he kind of, the country music was reformed around him. What was some of your motivation, or what was it like to sort of sing Hank Williams songs? And for you, what would the point of doing that be?
Right. Well, I point back to my dad. My dad idolized Hank Williams. He wasn't just a sort of, another country singer out there on the charts. My dad, I mean, Hank Williams was everything to my dad. His writing, his singing, his popularity, um, maybe even the hard living, the hard drinking and stuff, all appealed to my dad. And so I grew up with those songs. I mean, I know the entire Hank Williams catalog by the time I'm 8 years old, and that's not an exaggeration. That's just if you lived in my house, that's what was happening. So I knew the songs for starters. Second of all, I also knew, my dad singing them. Um, but I always felt that my point of departure would have been, uh, and I'm this way anyway as a musician. I like to retool songs. I don't see any use of doing a song the way it already has been done,
Hmm.
because they already did it. So why am I doing it and aping, that original great rendition? So what I try to do is if I am going to do a cover, and I do plenty of them, both in recordings but also in shows and stuff, and that is to I wouldn't call it reinvention, but it's a something reshaping, reconsidering of those songs. And what I
Reappraisal, maybe.
what's that?
Reappraisal, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And they can be dressed up in different musical ways. So, for example, for Hank, um, I find there's a lot of blues in Hank. I know he's honky tonk and country and all that stuff, but there's blues, like real blues in Hank. And so when I recorded my album called Darrell Scott Sings the Blues of Hank Williams, that's what I was after. I was underlining, hey folks, Hank has blues style in his stuff, and a lot of his songs have the word blues, a honky tonk blues, and that kind of thing where it's literally in the title. So I thought it was a something that I would do is record an album and kind of lean it toward the blues playing. So I was on electric. I had a B3, great B3 player, Reese Winans on B3, uh, and had out of the ordinary non-Nashville drummer and bass. So I was looking for a blues approach to Hank, and I think I found my version to do that.
It was sublime. I've also, I don't know if you're familiar with Martha Spencer. She's a
I don't
singer
think
from
so.
deep, where Kentucky and Virginia kind of meet.
Cool.
I heard her perform that song one time, Lost Highway, and
Uh-huh.
and she kind of really peeled my head back because I was like, wow. When I say this, it's going to sound wrong, but I thought anybody can do this. Here's a woman doing this song,
Oh,
um,
absolutely.
and it has just such an incredible reach. That song just has a lot of reach. It seems like.
Right. And see, if we're always thinking, and we are, let's admit that it basically male Hank, on all of us other males will follow. But I've found some of the most surprising of my own songs being recorded is when a woman records my song, and in my brain, I wrote the song so much for myself that it's so male. It's just it's welded in there, and then I hear a woman do my song, and then suddenly it's like I hear the song in a whole different way, just because there's a different point of view. So yeah, Hank songs will do that too. Absolutely.
And as far as I love that perspective of having a different one based on hearing different people sing your songs.
Totally.
Your songs have been recorded by Patty Loveless, by the Chicks, by Kathy Mattea, by Maura
Uh-huh.
O'Connell. So it must be very interesting for you, I think, to hear
Yeah.
those different iterations of your
Yeah, it
songs.
is because to me songs are more than just the melody and the lyrics. That's the general starting point. But there's another thing that I think is extremely important, and that's character. The character. So it's almost like when you go to the theater, and do you believe that that person is who they're portraying? I mean, can you believe that? And that's the way I feel about songs. Do I believe this person singing, narrating this? Do I believe that that's them? And and that perspective change, even from a man, a traditional men's song to becoming a woman's song, that can, like you say, peel back your head. Where the perspective just changes and you hear it in a brand new way, where the what the males didn't do that. I mean, it was what it was, but then to hear a woman singing it, and to me, part of that is not just the woman part; it's the character.
Hmm.
For example, if you know the voice of Tom Waits, right? So if Tom Waits were
Yes,
to
I
sing,
do.
yeah, so if Tom were to sing Happy Birthday, and then if somebody, I don't know, fill in the blank,
Doris Day.
Doris Day sings Happy Birthday, we get a very different, something. It's the same melody, the same this, but we're getting something out of that other perspective. And that's what I'm talking about. That's at least pointing in the direction of that character thing I was talking about. Yeah.
Darrell Scott is here. I think we can. I think I can follow this up with an example. I'd like to play a song that's had, I believe, you might say, has had legs for you, which is "You'll Never Leave Harlan Alive."
Right.
Um, but if you don't mind, I'd like to play the Ruby Friedman version of this.
Oh, okay, let's hear it.
The Ruby Friedman Orchestra. Are you familiar with this?
I'm not sure that I am. Was it on the TV show thing?
It's not from Justified, I don't think,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's interesting because I was looking around on some of the online services, and I mean, this song has been recorded at least a dozen times.
Yeah, that's right.
And so let's check it out and come back and talk a
Yeah.
little bit more with
Yeah,
Darrell
I want to
Scott.
hear this. I want to hear this thing.
This is the Ruby Friedman Orchestra performing Darrell Scott's song "You'll Never Get Out of Harlan Alive." We'll be back. This is Trivial Thursdays. Oh, I cannot stand to fade this down, but I have to because I want to talk to Darrell Scott a little bit more while we still got some time. That is the Ruby Friedman Orchestra there, with Darrell Scott's song "You'll Never Leave Harlan Alive." Um, that is something. So, had you
Yeah.
not heard that before?
You know, it might have been on that Justified show because basically the seemed to be the way that song hung around in that Justified thing was they played some of those 12 versions or 8 or
Mm-hmm.
whatever uh as at different key points in the theater of the drama called Justified. My version was even on there. As a matter of fact, I think mine closed the entire, outfit of them doing the Justified series.
Yeah,
I may have heard that in that case, but I think that's a killer version. That's fantastic. It's
me too. That's
yeah,
got like some sort of graveyard doom to it. That's nice.
yeah, and which is kind of in the song in a way
Yeah.
that which is also in the mythology of how I grew up. Hearing about Harlan County and my family was like, man, that's where you go to get killed. That's where you go.
Right.
And this is 1930s and 40s
Sure.
and 50s reminiscence in my family from my parents and stuff. It's not that case today, but the mythology of the yesteryear is still there, which is like the graveyard doom that you're talking about. But yeah, that's a great version. I love it's just sort of Appalachian enough to, do that yodel vocally that she's doing,
Mm-hmm.
some of the instrumentation, but then it's also got a toughness to the drum
God, it sure
thing
does.
and she's singing it, crazy well. And so yeah, that's great. There's an example of, a song I wrote, I know what it is in my head, but there it is from another point of view, another singer, another approach, and that's fantastic. That's what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to do that.
Darrell Scott is here. We're talking about just his career, and I want to make sure that we mention your show with Big Ears in
Yeah,
Knoxville in a couple weeks.
yeah,
But before we do, so when you play "You'll Never Get Out of Harlan Alive," do you get different reactions from different? I mean, you play that song in California,
yeah,
in San Bernardino, where you
yeah,
used to live. Like, hey,
yeah.
are you conscious of different reactions the song gets? It seems like it would get a more passionate response back home, but maybe you've been surprised by that other places.
I have because I've done it in Wales, and Wales has a lot of mining too. I've done it in Ireland and Scotland, and yes, the Californias and Alaskas and everywhere. There's something about the song that you don't even have to have a mining background to somehow get the story and the sort of uh, you. There's something about that song, and I can't quite explain it, that it touches people, and they don't have to be coal miners to touch them. But if you do have coal mining in your family, then the song does major stuff. It does something strong to those folks. But I also have, know that it touches people even without a mining background. Uh, uh, and I can't explain that. It's funny. That song is so specific to my family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, when Patty Loveless did it, uh, she changed some of the lyric because in my version, I literally have had people send me my family genealogy from the specifics in my song. Like
Wow.
they've sent me my family tree based on uh, the mountain that I mentioned, the rivers that I mentioned, the Tilly Helton that I mentioned. They can send me the Scott genealogy. That's how specific that song is.
Yeah,
And so one
that's
of the funny
incredible.
things is I find the more specific a songwriter can be for their own expression, the more it has the ability to it's this weird thing like I become specific, but to the outer world something touches them that doesn't make it seem like it's just this guy, you know, reading from his diary, telling us personal stuff. There's something that becomes universal in that process. I have no idea how to explain that, but in essence, the more specific we can get in our to our own experience, in essence, to tell the truth, the more that truth translates to in a universal way to people who haven't experienced what you have experienced, what I have experienced in that song. I can't explain it, but I think art does that. That's what art is.
That's Darrell Scott, and I think it's safe to say, sir, that your songs have done that on many occasions. What you just described, and I
Yeah.
have to go ahead.
Well, that's the only explanation I have for it. So when I'm sitting in my room, in my own room, writing that song, I am not thinking, oh, this one's gonna, people are gonna like this in Wales and California and Kentucky. Zero. I'm writing it because if I'm the only one who ever hears it, that's how I'm writing it. I'm not writing it as if an audience is in the room with me. Because as soon as the audience enters the room, so to speak, the consciousness of the artist, that you've kissed the art goodbye. It went out the window, and now you're second guessing toward an audience that you made up in your head. So I find the more specific I can be, and the most honest I can be, somehow that translates. I can't explain it. Maybe somebody at the university in the psychology department could tell us, but I can't explain it. But I've seen it work very much.
That is Darrell Scott. I wish we could just talk and talk and talk, so I may have to have you back
Okay,
sometime. But
sure,
I
sure.
want to congratulate you on your. Is this you're performing at Big Ears,
Yeah,
the festival in Knoxville
yeah,
on March 27th, and I think that this is a festival full of people who sit in great appreciation of a variety of ways that artists perform and what they bring to the stage.
yeah.
You're playing with your electrifying trio. Any thoughts on that? A lot of times people maybe sometimes come up with sort of vaguely special things to do for Big Ears. Before I forget, I do want to ask you a question which you may not want to answer, but I know that you toured with Robert Plant, and I believe Robert Plant is playing at Big Ears, so you guys will
You
be in
know,
the same town.
I did see that. I did see that, and I hope I saw on his tour page or whatever that he's running. So he hits
Mm-hmm.
Knoxville and then he's gone again and the day before. So I don't
Okay.
know if we'll I'm gonna kind of run him down and see. I see the band that he's playing with is very cool. So I really want to
Okay.
hear, but I'd love to say hello to Robert and uh but I can tell schedule wise they hit and run. They're gone. Uh,
Right.
but yeah, I'd love to say hello to Robert and see his group live. I've been seeing like a tiny desk of it and all that stuff, and it's very cool. Robert's always he's a moving force. He's like the shark, that just needs to be moving in water in order to stay alive. He's a moving, creative cat. That's what he
Yeah, I
is.
don't think anyone could have predicted necessarily the direction that his career would take. All these years
Yeah,
after hair flinging, guitar smashing Led Zeppelin.
right. Yeah, no, he's an artist under there. Even on that stuff, where he came
Mm-hmm.
from ahead of that was just some version of roots music, to tell you the truth. And when I
True.
played with him with the Band of Joy, which was the name of his first group before Led Zeppelin, he was trying to get back to some of that sort of folky, rootsy something or other. So that's just been a pursuit of his, and I'm in great admiration of his ability to just keep moving instead of repeating, Stairway to Heaven, for an entire lifetime. He moves on.
Darrell Scott, your electrifying trio is playing at Big Ears, as we just mentioned. Is there anything you want to say about what? Do you have any expectations of that, or what are you thinking about that gig?
Well, it's funny. It is one of those gigs that sticks out in my mind before I get there. Most things I do don't have that quality. I mean, most things I know about Big Ears. See, last year I was there for all 4 days, not as a performer, but as a fan.
Okay.
And so I went just to check it out as a music lover, and I was blown away. And I came back and I told my agent, I said, "You have to get me into this festival." Because, in many ways, I can show up a lot of different ways. I can show up with a string quintet. I can show up with a honky tonk band, a bluegrass band, a solo singer songwriter. There's many ways that I can show up. And so, sure enough, I got a slot at Big Ears, and it was like, oh my God, now what? What do I bring? And we decided, and the venue as well. I mean, Big Ears. Well, let's have him come out with the electrifying trio. And what that is I'm on electric the whole time. I've got a great drummer named Jeff Sipe, who has been just one of the great drummers of really jam bands and creative stuff. He was in the original Aquarium Rescue Unit, for example. Uh, and then my bass player, she's a little monster. She's played with Jack White to Guy Clark, and so she's wide open as well. So I want to bring the most creative thing I can get my hands on with that trio. It'll be come down to just some of the most creative songs that I got, because I feel that I need to be invited back, really, and then come back with the string quintet next
There
year,
you
or
go.
come back in a bluegrassy way, or whatever. I just want Big Ears to be a part of what I do, not just. But if all I do is get to play it once, and then I go back to buying a 4-day pass just as a music lover next year, I'll be there. So I'm in whether they hire me or not. Uh, and so I just want to be a creative thing, because that's what's going on at Big Ears. There's a lot of uh, creative stuff going on.
Darrell, I have to let you go. It's been such a great pleasure to talk with you here on the airwaves of WRFL Lexington. Best wishes to you and the trio on Friday, March 27th at the Big Ears Festival in Knoxville.
Yeah.
And and again, it's been a great pleasure talking to you. Best wishes to you and all you do.
Thanks, Mick.
You
Talk to you some other time, man.
that's right. That was
Okay.
Darrell Scott. We're gonna get on out of here.